Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. In many Chinese historical dramas, the plot often includes the element of bewitching smoke. The storyline typically goes like this: a sneaky person, at night, dips a finger in saliva and pokes a small hole in the window. Then, using a bamboo tube, they blow smoke into the room, causing the people inside to be knocked unconscious. In some other historical dramas, the people outside would poke through the paper on the window to eavesdrop and spy on the secrets inside, revealing things that were not supposed to be known. Why does this plot appear so often? Because in ancient China, windows were typically covered with paper. Paper windows were neither windproof nor soundproof, and most importantly, once they were pierced, the privacy of the room would be instantly exposed. At that time, windows were not strong, and there was no modern privacy protection. They often became sources of leaks for important matters. Today, our living environments place high demands on security and privacy. Modern windows use double glazing, which is not only durable but also provides excellent sound insulation. With heavy curtains, privacy is well protected. Some well-meaning friends might ask, didn't the ancient people worry about their windows being poked and spied upon? In fact, the ancient people had their own wisdom. We know that during the Ming and Qing dynasties, glass was a rare commodity in China. It wasn't until the late Qing dynasty that glass gradually became more widespread. Before the popularization of glass, ordinary families had to replace their paper windows every year. It can be said that it wasn't until the last few decades that glass windows began to be commonly used in households, replacing the traditional paper windows. Moreover, were all windows in ancient Chinese architecture made of paper? The answer is no. This is just a setting in some Chinese historical TV dramas. In reality, paper windows did exist for a long time, but they were not widespread at the beginning. During the Tang and Song dynasties, paper had started to be used for windows, but it was not yet common. It wasn't until the Ming and Qing dynasties that paper windows truly became a widespread practice. With the advent of modern glass and aluminum windows, wooden and paper windows gradually faded from history. So, the question arises, since paper windows would be damaged by water or wind, why didn't the ancient people worry about their paper windows being blown apart? The answer reveals the wisdom of the ancients. According to historians, before paper windows, the ancients first used cloth to cover windows. The history of cloth can be traced back to the Neolithic era. The earliest cloth was made from hemp, processed from plant fibers. Although hemp cloth is rare today, it was once a common item in ancient life. In ancient times, the purpose of windows was to make life more convenient. However, during rainy or winter seasons, windows that couldn't block the wind or rain became a form of torture. To deal with harsh weather, the ancients came up with the idea of using cloth to cover windows, a practice that lasted for a long time. However, cloth was expensive. In ancient times, cloth was a valuable item and became a burden for ordinary people. Moreover, cloth was difficult to fix in place and had poor light-transmitting properties, prompting people to look for more suitable alternatives. As a result, the ancients began to use paper to cover windows. Paper was not a late invention. After Cai Luan's improvements to papermaking, paper gradually became popular and was used in everyday life. However, using paper for windows did not happen immediately, as paper was initially mainly used for writing, and only the upper classes could afford it. It wasn't until the Tang and Song dynasties, with the development of papermaking, that various types of paper began to flow into ordinary households, making it feasible to use paper for windows. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, paper windows became widely popular, becoming a common practice in households across China at that time. Paper windows had advantages that cloth could not match. First, paper was easier to replace. Secondly, it allowed better light transmission than cloth. And third, paper was much cheaper than cloth. Especially in winter, people would use multiple layers of paper to cover windows. This not only increased the window's durability but also improved its resistance to cold by covering both the inside and outside of the window with paper, making it more popular. The way people covered windows with paper also varied by region. For example, people in the south usually pasted paper on the inside of the window, while people in the north tended to paste paper on the outside. Through these clever designs, the ancients made full use of paper's advantages, keeping out the wind and cold while ensuring enough light inside. In many parts of China today, the tradition of pasting windows on the 25th day of the 12th lunar month is still preserved. First, water is sprayed onto the old window paper. Then, the edges are scraped off with a knife, and the dust and paper scraps are cleaned up. Finally, a layer of paste is applied, and the new window paper is pasted on. This window pasting custom carries the meaning of removing the old to welcome the new, while also enhancing the window's sealing ability to keep warmth inside. Because window paper often gets damaged after being used for an entire year. An old Chinese saying goes, "A needle-sized hole, a bowl-sized wind," in the cold winter. It is necessary to paste the windows tightly to keep out the cold wind. According to relevant historians, the annual window pasting tradition in ancient China indicates that paper windows were not durable. So, can these paper windows really block the wind and rain? Let's understand this by looking at the development of windows. Before the invention of papermaking, ancient people usually used wooden boards for windows. During the day, they would prop up the boards, allowing light to enter the house, while also letting air circulate. At night, the boards would be lowered, which not only protected against theft but also ensured privacy. Though this method had its advantages, it was inconvenient, especially in the summer, when it was necessary to both ensure lighting and prevent mosquitoes from entering. With the invention of papermaking, the ancients began to experiment with wooden grids for windows, then covering them with paper. This way, they could protect against theft and mosquitoes, and light could still enter the house even without opening the window. Paper was inexpensive and easy to produce, so common people could afford it. Additionally, ancient window paper wasn't as fragile as portrayed in historical dramas. It was usually tougher and more durable than ordinary paper, according to historical records. Initially, the ancients used regular writing paper. Due to the emphasis on frugality, the paper used to write on would often be repurposed for windows. However, this paper was not durable, and it would easily degrade when exposed to wind and rain, so it would be replaced. Over time, the craft of making window paper was gradually improved, making paper windows more durable and better able to cope with weather changes. Later, papermakers improved the craft of making paper from rice husks and vine paper, which were thicker and more resilient, but still couldn't fully withstand wind and rain. They could even be pierced with a finger. To improve, the craftsmen invented oil-treated paper based on vine paper, by enhancing its toughness and soaking it in tung oil. This paper became both waterproof and tougher, with a feel similar to oiled paper umbrellas. So, how durable was this specially crafted window paper? Someone once attempted to recreate ancient window paper, and even a regular wooden stick had difficulty piercing it. To puncture it with a finger would take some effort. However, if there's still concern, one could paste several layers of window paper, which would reduce light transmission but increase the window's strength. As for waterproofing, the tung oil treatment made the paper resistant to ordinary wind and rain, so there's no need to worry too much. However, the paper's lifespan was limited, so it still needed to be replaced every year. Despite its durability, this special window paper could still be pierced, to prevent others from peeking into the house. The ancients were clever and often added a screen inside the house, Even if the window paper was pierced, passers-by could only see the screen, not the interior. Screens were not only decorative but also effectively protected privacy. In large households, the rooms typically faced inward, making it difficult for outsiders to enter the inner courtyards, where they would have no chance of piercing the window paper. So, the wisdom of ancient Chinese people should not be underestimated. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.